Good morning, Rabbi Sai. What's the guest's name? What's your name? Shmuel Goldstein. Shalom Aleichem. From? Monroe. Really? For real? Pomona. Hold on. Once I made a mistake over there, you can go to this email right away. 75 miles south of Buffalo and next to Jamestown is Lakewood, New York. Thank you. Yitzchak Rosen, Brooklyn, Ohio. As I state, Mufurish. Rabbi said, check out the screen, the unbelievable picture, one of my favorite Purim pictures. Mordechai, the son of Baldman, all dressed up, Kamosh Tzarech. By the way, I was at the Levaya with Avi. People came over and they go, "Hi, Mr. Baldman. Hi, Mr. Baldman." Nobody noticed me. It was a geschmack. Seriously, people came over and they said, "Mr. Baldman." I was on my voyage. I did a kriya. I've never done it before, but I had a jacket I didn't really like anymore. So I decided to do kriya. I based it on what I did kriya my mother, Aleh Shalom. So I ripped it here, and then Avi comes and tells me, "No, you're supposed to do on the right side." So the entire Levaya, I'm going like this. I'm holding it. But then I heard that maybe it's okay. I don't know. We have to look into it. Next picture, if you want to show it a little later. We have here, this is a guy all dressed up in MDY gear. His pants, the whole thing. Okay, Givaldic. I do it just to get you upset. Here's the thing. Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Okay. Smart. And now that you're doing that, let's continue. Very good.
So, what I want to say is like this. First of all,
so your name is
this does not give you the zechus to speak. This is just I was saying that you are gonna speak. I just wanted to point that you were going to speak. Anyway.
Look. That's what it is.
Tachlis. No, my name is not in the Gemara, so you want to just take over. Aaron Hirsch is in the house. Where? Aaron Hirsch, get over here! Representing Lakewood, Aaron Hirsch, Givaldic. And now we're going to move on. Which Lakewood? Lakewood, the one I was born in. So we got to start learning here. I learned Yevamos my first year yeshiva in Elzman. I share a quick story that happened in my first yeshiva. My chavrus and I had no idea what a tzara was, and came up with my own theory. Hold on, Reb Aaron. We went to our Rebbe and asked a question that made it clear we didn't have the proper understanding of a tzara. And he said, that's what happens when you're from Los Angeles and learn Gemara on a surfboard. Shkoyach. I'm reminded of the story every time he said it takes a few daf to get an understanding of Yevamos. And anyways, he says he credits his friend Yehuda Kaplan for getting me on the daf. Moshe for sponsoring my honor. I guess Moshe Kinsbursky. Hope to meet you one day. Ari Miller from Los Angeles. Shalom Aleichem. Welcome. Thank you for finding. Where were you for the seal?
Now you understand the standards my wife has for letting me go.
So what are you doing here?
I didn't know till Friday was coming.
Wow. So welcome. You're going to be every day, Be'ez Hashem?
I have to be home for Shabbos. I'm not sure.
Wow. Okay, but thanks for coming. You brought me any merch?
It was an unplanned visit. I left it in my office.
The who?
The Amaritz New Jersey plate is in my office.
You have Amaritz New Jersey plate. Givaldic. Okay, I actually felt like I needed one of those, like a hat that says Amaretz when I ripped the kriya on the Amaretz inside. Walking around the Levaya, Amaretz. This month's sponsor for the koil is Mr. Anonymous Nishmas Chaya Bas Yosef. Parnas HaChodesh Shauly Rosenfeld in memory of my dear friend Yehuda Augenbaum. Parnas HaChodesh by the Lock Lebovic families. Lakewood as a zechus for our families. Parnas HaChodesh Jonathan Davydov for the Hatzlachah of Davydov families. Parnas HaChodesh. Various friends and family for Shlomo for Yaakov Yehuda ben Gittel. Okay. Rabbi Isai, here we are in the middle of a sugya yesterday. We learned that Rish Lakish asked Rabbi Yochanan, why is it that Megillah could be read in different cities on different dates? Chadasar, Shnemasar, the whole thing that we had in Megillah, depends if you're in a city that has a wall, doesn't have a wall. Even this year they had a whole Shiloh, one of the Rabbanim came out, the Bet Shemesh now is officially like Yerushalayim because you could see Rav Bransdorfer, the whole thing. Isn't that Lois is going to do? You're making two Torahs. You're making You're making different sections, different factions in Klal Yisrael. So we're holding like 7 lines from the bottom. Omar Lei. So Rabbi Yochanan tells Rish Lakish, instead of answering him, he says, Ad kan li shanisa? What? Why are you asking this question in Masechtas Megillah when you could have asked this question in Masechtas Psachim? Ad kan li shanisa? Magim shenagu lasis malacha b'arvei Psachim ad chatzois oisin. Maybe this is even a stronger question than Megillah. You see that there's different minhagim. Some people have a minhag to do malacha erev Pesach until chatzois. Makoim shenagu shaloi lasos ein oisin. Okay, so why are you asking Daf about Megillah? Yesterday I ran out of time. I just wanted to point out this vart that Eliakim said at the Siyum. Eliakim is from the Koilel. He's taking the Farah and 1,000 Daf. Nobody listened to the speech because it was already like 1 o'clock in the morning. So I'll just repeat it real quickly. I actually said it a while ago. The question is, why is that Purim, which is a day of Achdos, you go, you give food to your friends and money and this. It's all about being together and being sameach together. That we have 2 different days, and the idea was Yaakov Tainas that Hagufa. That's what we're trying to show. That even though you're in your place and you're doing your halacha, and I'm in my place, I'm in Bnei Brak, and to me it's just a complete weekday. And you're in Yerushalayim, you're doing Megillah and you're doing all the mitzvahs, but we're here for one purpose and one purpose only. That's what we want to show. That Hagufa is achas. Okay, fine. So Omar Lei, so Shlaki says, why would I ask a question from Pesach? I'm telling you that you're mechuyev to read the Megillah on this day, on Tezvav, and you're mechuyev to read it on Yudal. There's different times, different places, different times. You're talking about a minhag. Okay, I don't have a question about it. Somebody doesn't want to work, Erev Yontif, somebody doesn't want to work, that's a minhag. But I'm telling you, mechuyev to read the Megillah. You have a different mitzvah than me. As Gemara, Basam Lavi Suru Havia and Pesach working is not an Isser, but Halayla Beishama Yoisrim Beisil Matirim. There's another machlokes. When is this minhag? Some say even it starts by Bedikas Chametz, Leil Bedikas Chametz. You're not supposed to do any melacha. Beishami says it's also Beisil Matirim. Amarlei Hasam Aroya Oimer Melacha with the Lesley. Says Rish Lakish, from there I have a problem of Loit is going to do. It doesn't look like 2 different factions. Because what is somebody going to see? Somebody's going to see that I'm sitting idle, I'm on my couch, learning the daf. He doesn't have that I'm not doing melacha because I paskin like bisham. He just doesn't see me doing work, so it's not a big deal. But when I read my Megillah on Tezvav and you read it on Yudal, it's obvious what's going on here. Says the Gemara. Now, this is where he's getting to. What does this have to do with our sugya? Now, Daf Yudala, today's Daf. So, Beis Shammai say that the tzara, if, let's say your daughter and another woman fall to you, obviously you can't marry your daughter, you can't be miyabim her, but what about her co-wife, the tzara? So, Beis Shammai say she's moter. But what is she really, according to Beis Hillel? She's osir to be miyabim. If she's osir to be miyabim, she has the isser of eishes ach. She is the wife of your brother. She's a erva. Ememela, the children are mamzerim. Nu, ein lecha shtei tayres gadol mezeh. It's 2 tayres. He holds his mutter, he holds his aser. Says Gemara, misavers asu beishami kedevrei. Now, this word asu is what we're going to be discussing the entire day today, basically. Whether, when Beishamai paskin halacha, they say this is mutter, this is aser, this is tamid, this is tar. Did they act upon it or they just argued it? They said, no, we hold this Yevama is mutter, but they never went ahead and were miyabim. Asu lo yasu. That's the whole sugya today. I'm going to try to prove from different places. Mi savers asu b'shami k'devrayim. You really think they went ahead and were miyabim the Yevama? Lo yasu b'shami k'devrayim. Rabbi Yochanan Amar asu v'asu. Rabbi Yochanan, who's trying to answer Rish Lakish, he holds that, I don't know if I could do this. Maybe I'll flip it over. He's staring in my face. It's not enough. He's right here. He's on my Gemara. Lo yasu v'shami k'devrayim. Rabbi Yochanan asu v'asu. It's, you try it.
You brought it. I didn't have to bring it.
I thought it was a good idea for some reason. Asu v'asu. Rabbi Yochanan holds that they actually performed Yibum. And if they performed Yibum, As Rish Lakish, it's Leisis Gaididu. There's two factions, and it looks like two Torahs.
Didn't you learn that they married each other, but they told them?
I told you the end of the sugya. I cheated. Yeah, in the Mishnah, I told you the end. That was Rashi. I wanted to make sure that people don't learn the Mishnah and say, oh, it says the Mishnah, you should do Shalom. And you should do Shalom, you should be over Averis to do Shalom. So I had to point it out that I like to cheat a little bit sometimes. We're going to have to get all the way to Amud Beis to see it. This is Machlokes Rav and Shmuel. Rav Omer, Lo Yosef Bishami K'Divrei Mishnah, and all of Shas when Bishami argued with Beisil, the halachas like Beisil, and Bishami never did according to their own opinion. They gave in to Beisil. Shmuel Omar, Asu v'Asu. Shmuel says no. They acted upon their psak. Emas. Let's understand this. Ilema koydem baskol. There was a baskol. Rashi brings an Eruvin that says, Eilu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. The baskol, a heavenly voice. Beis Shammai is right, Beis Hillel is right, but what are we going to do? The halacha is like Beis Hillel. Why? Because they're noyach, they're easygoing, they're anavim. They say over what Beis Shammai hold, even before themselves. They say it over. Beis Shammai hold like this, and this svar is like that, but we hold differently. Beis Shammai, as the Gemara is going to say in a second, sharper, better learners. They analyze much better. And therefore, halacha is going to be like Beis Shammai. Because halachically speaking, they're correct. If it's before the Baskol said that the halacha is like Beis Hillel, so why wouldn't Beis Shammai go according to their own psak? What do they care what Beis Hillel says? But maybe it's after the Baskol and they had respect for the Baskol. Also. So how could they argue on the Baskol? I can answer it either way you want. It's before the Baskol. You could go into Beis Hillel Ruba. What happened was Beis Hillel is the Roiv. And if it did the Roiv, what does it say in the Pasuk, Gary? It says, Achrei Rabim Lahatois. That's one of the big klalim in Torah. We go by the Roiv. We don't go, but let's say, we'll see in a second, it's not so much what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said and didn't say, it's what the Roiv here in this world on earth say. Okay, so if we're going to go, we have the Beis Hillel are the majority. So Beis Shammai have to bend to the majority and passing like Beis Hillel. But if you hold that they didn't go with the majority, I could just see this happening. That's we're like, oh, the psak is you should listen to us. We're the majority. You guys are fools. The majority is when you're chacham, but you're not. So when they're equal in chachma, that was a given. Beis Shammai were the smarter, the sharper ones. So the halacha l'chayr should go according to them, and we don't go achrei rabim lahatois. What happened was it was after the Baskol. You have to listen to the Baskol. Heavenly voice. You're not going to listen to the heavenly voice. Also, Rabbi Shua, the famous Rabbi Shua by Tanu Shalachnoi. Let's go. We see this over and over in Shas. The major machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer and all the Chachamim, and every single simin min hashamayim went according to Rabbi Eliezer, the Yachid. The wall bent, the water flowed the other direction, and eventually even the Baskol, they ignored the Baskol. They said, that what? Torah loy b'shamayim. It's a major yisoid in Yiddishkeit and in Torah. The ones HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the Torah, it's our Torah to do what we please with, what we think is emes. To the point, I forgot where it was, but there was a halacha somewhere where HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Gemara says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Pamalia Shemalia said like this, and Chacham said like that, and the Rambam paskins against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because it's not about HaKadosh Baruch Hu anymore. It's our Torah, we do how we feel. The Baskol comes and says, halacha is like Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai say, I don't care it could be a heavenly voice. You imagine you hear this heavenly voice? No. We hold we have the right, the Torah is given to us, for us to paskin. I don't remember who this story was, and it's not important if it's a true story or not, but it's the side of the story. There was a guy who he had a lung disease. So the doctor said, you have to go to Switzerland. good ear, whatever. So he dreamt at night, said that in the place that you are, this lung disease that you have is not a treifa. But if you go to Switzerland, you go to Chutz La'aretz, it's a treifa in Chutz La'aretz. So he didn't go. Because Torah, that the Chachamim have, they could paskin, and when they paskin, it changes teva, it changes everything in this world based on that. Okay.
Because Yeshua was the one who had to give it to Gamliel and come on Yom Kippur with his wallet. He's the one who says, why? Because we go off to Bezdin. Whatever Bezdin baskets.
This is Chazanish? Story about the Chazanish? Says Eli Dolinsky. Yeah. What? Wow. It's the Chazanish.
Yeah. Oh, now it's...
Yeah. What about the sponsors? Oh, he's right. I didn't see the sponsors in the beginning of the year.
I'm busy trying to deal with the sheets. It takes a long time now.
You forgot to tell me about the sponsors. I don't even know if I have them here. Okay, we'll have to do it a different time. Zog the Gemara. It was going great. Thank you. Says the Gemara, the image Gimel Vasco. Uman do Omar also Karina Khan Lois is going to do. Ask the Gemara, says the Gemara, yeah, it's a good kasha. Uman do Omar also, if Beis Shammai acted upon what they said, and they said that you're allowed to marry the Yevama, you have to marry the Yevama, they married the Yevama, Karina Khan Lois is going to do, Lois Hasu Agudis Agudois. You're making two Torahs. Amar Abaya, Ki Amrin Lois is going to do, Ki going shtei Bate Dinim Birachas. Halol Morim Kedir Beis Shammai, Halol Morim Kedir Beis Hillel. We have that today. Two Bezdins, like a Sephardi and Ashkenazic Bezdin, passing different halachas. That is a problem, says Abaya. Avol shtei Bate Dinim B'shtei Ayoros, less than ba. But two different Bezdins in two different cities is not a problem. Amalei Rava, Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, Ki shtei Bate Dinim Birachas Dami. Beis Shammai Beis Hillel live all over the place together in Eretz Yisrael. There's Beis Shammai Beis Hillel in Yerushalayim, Beis Shammai Beis Hillel in Bet Shemesh, Beis Shammai Beis Hillel everywhere. And we have two Bati Dinim. Elam Arava. It's interesting because it seems like the Gemara pushes off Abaya, yet the Rambam actually paskins this halacha. He paskins you shouldn't have two Bati Dinim in one city. Okay, not exactly. And the Kesef Mishnah talks about it. Why would the Rambam paskin against what it seems like in our Gemara? But there is such a thing. You should know there's such a concept, not to have two Bati Dinim, two separate halachas. Omalei Rava, Beis Shammai Beis Hillel kishtei Bati Dinim Birachas Dami. Elam Rava ki amrili this is going Bezdin Birachas. One Bezdin in the city. Plag Moirin Kedir Beis Shammai, Plag Moirin Kedir Beis Hillel. Half in one Bezdin. That's not good. But two Bati Dinim, says the Gemara, is okay. After Bati Dinim Birachas, less lamba. Toshma. So now we're talking about the halacha of machshir mitzvah. You're allowed to do a bris milah on Shabbos, even though it's issa deraisa to make a chabur like that. But you're allowed to do a bris milah. Comes Rebbe Eliezer and he says that not only are you allowed to do a bris milah, but you're also allowed to make a knife. Not only are you allowed to make the knife, you're allowed to cut the wood, you're allowed to make the fire, you're allowed to do the whole thing. Amazing Taisus, you should see inside. Taisus says, says Taisus, not only do they say that it's allowed to make a knife on Shabbos, they purposely would forget all the knives everywhere. Well, anybody have a knife? No, we don't have a knife. Okay, let's start cutting wood, making a fire, making a knife. To show the Chavivas HaMitzvah on Shabbos. Where Rebbe Kiva says, prepare it before Shabbos. This is not. But I want to point out an unbelievable Gemara. The Gemara says in Masechta Shabbos, which we learned, Daf Kuf Lamed, Amud Beis, the Gemara says over there, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, because Rebbe Eliezer was so makbid on Milah, on Shabbos, so when the Goyim came and made a Gzeira on Milah, they skipped his city. They skipped his town. So you see, there was a Chashav Zach. He was makbid on Milah. So if you look at this chart for a second, it says, another famous pasuk, in other words, it has to be a goat that has milk, a cow that has milk, but a chicken that doesn't have. One of the very, very embarrassing things of being a magachir is, there's many, but the biggest thing is when I make like a straight out mistake. So when we're learning, I forgot what, I said this already. I said once in shir, So if the chicken is pregnant, and they thought I was joking, no, I kept on going, like talking about pregnant chicken or something. And then they reminded me there's no such thing. Okay, but that was, okay, so you say, there was sometimes it's mamish like open pshat, real pshat, that's busha shen kemayu. So, happens all the time.
Milk from a chicken?
Huh?
Milk from a chicken or something?
Yeah, no. So that's what the Gemara is saying here, that there's no milk in a chicken. This Shabbos, this Friday night, I was very tired and I was very upset about Reb Chaim Kanievsky. And I got up at my table, Baruch Hashem, with no guests. I started doing Havdalah Friday night. My wife thought I was joking. No, I was just famished. And then by Hamoitzi, I said like Mezainis or Shahakal, something. I was out of it. Okay, fine. Huh? A hangover, a double hangover from Purim. Says, which I didn't drink much. I drank very little. Says the Gemara. So, in different places, there were makbin abaz b'chav, like Sfardim today are makbin not to eat fish with milk. Different minhag. So, what? Some. The real ones. Is that you? You said that? Some? Who are you? You're an Ashkenazi. He is Ashkenazi. Yeah. He's a yeki, exactly. So you see, there's different minhagim. Let's just guide to do. Rebbe Kiva wouldn't do this izemel thing. He wouldn't make a knife on Shabbos. It's not you call Rebbe Kiva. Shabbos and the zechus of Shabbos. If you could prepare before Shabbos, you have no right to do it on Shabbos. Not only that, if you don't have a knife according to Rebbe Kiva, what do? No bris. Push it off. Terrible. Says Gemara, we already answered that different places are different things. Rebbe Kiva lived here, Rebbe Eliezer lived there. We already answered that. So what is your question to begin with? Shabbos is so chomer that everybody should act in one way, and there are no minhagim when it comes to Yisurei Shabbos. Kamash Malon, that even by Shabbos, different places have different minhagim. Tashma. By the way, just in case you didn't notice, this is an easier sugya than your typical charts and cartoons everywhere. You have a candle that was lit before Shabbos and it burnt out. So it's a question of muktzah. If I set it aside during Ben Hashmoshes for one moment, whether or not it remains muktzah for the rest of Shabbos. So Rabbi Avo, who happened to be a Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan, when he was by Rabbi Shua's place, he didn't care about the muktzah. When we went to his Rebbe's city, he wouldn't. Behind my kusha, we just said there's different places, different minhagim. Says Gemara, he himself, it's not one makim. It's one individual who acted in two different ways. So what's the obvious answer? He was makel. He held as 100% mutter. The fact that he didn't do it in another city is just he wanted to respect Rabbi Yochanan. Says the Gemara, that's very nice for himself. What about a shamish who sees it and doesn't understand it and he'll think that it's 100% asur? He'll go back to the city, or he'll do it, he'll think it's mutter, and he'll do it in front of Rabbi Yochanan, and he'll embarrass Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan will be upset that Rabbi Avo's shamish is acting against what Rabbi Yochanan paskin. The Moedel Shama, he notifies the shamish and tells him, be careful when you go to another place, to Rabbi Yochanan's place, don't act like that. Toshma. It says in our Mishnah, even though Beisham Visil hold differently when it comes to a tzara, whether she's mutter or asur, they didn't stop marrying into each other. The first thing that comes to mind is, I need to look into it a little bit more. I'll just throw it out there. The Yerushalmis that we have today are a little different. Yerushalmis are based on the Talmidim of the Gra. So they wear shtreimels and they look like Hasidim, but they happen to be the biggest anti-Hasidim there are in the world. They're the biggest misnagdim because they're the Talmidim of the Gra. Yet, today, they marry into the Hasidim, and the Hasidim, you can't even tell the difference between the two of them. They speak the same Litvish Yiddish, and the same, they do almost, if you know that they're different, but they marry into each other, and there's hardly a difference now. So loinimnu is like bishami basil sort of. You have the chasidim and the misnagdim, and they marry into each other, no problem. Eli Amr Sasu, Amai loinimnu. Yam Sham loyasu, Mishamach loinimnu. Eli Amr Sasu, Amai loinimnu. If Beishami acted upon their halach and they married the Yevama, how could Beisil marry their women, their mamzerim, the children? Forget the women. The children are mamzerim. Okay, we could go one direction. Beishamai didn't stop marrying into Beisil's families. So we have over here Uvein ein loy. If it's the middle of the puzzle, if the brother who dies doesn't have a child, you can't just let the Yevama go. What do you have to do? Chalitza, Yibum. But according to Beishamai, there must be a Chalitza done here. You can't just let her go out. If she went out and she married just a stranger and she had a child, she's a Chayv Lavim. That marriage is a Lav, and the children are the children of Lav, whatever that means. So how come? So yeah, it's not a big deal. Beisil married those children. They're only Chayv Lavim. They're not Mamzerim. Now, next chart. What constitutes a mamzer? So, there's three shitas. Either, if you're over on a lav, that's one shita. We're not holding like that. So, in this case, if you marry a Yevama that didn't have chalitza, it's a lav. Her children are mamzerim, according to the one in green. The next step is basically what we hold, in that anything that has Isser Kares, like all the Arayas, not all, but a lot of the Arayas that have Isser Kares, that's enough to make a mamzer. And the last shita is it has to be the worst of the worst. Like your own mother, like your own daughter-in-law, then which gets Misas Bezin, that creates a mamzer. Anything that's less than that, Kares and Alav, doesn't create a mamzer. Those are the three shitas. So, at the end of the day, but according to Beishamai, you have the middle one, it's Kares, and Kares creates Mamzerim. How did Beisila marry Beishamai's children? What are you going to say? They hold like the bottom shita that has to be a Misas Bezdin. So we're going to go into it a little bit more on Amud Beis. But even though they have a machloikis, when it comes to tzara, yemiyavitz or not, but they agree that a mamzer comes from a kares. So if everybody agrees that a mamzer comes from kares, as a side note, mamzer is created from kares. So this is a case of a kares. Not to marry your brother's wife. You shouldn't marry her. She's a tzara and she has an issa eishasach, and you married her anyway. The vlad is a mamzer. How could they marry into these families? Elav shmamina lo yasu. So starting from the first word of the Amud, lo yasu b'sham k'divrayim, asu b'sham k'divrayim. Over here you have a raya that they didn't actually act upon it, because if they acted upon it, Beis Hillel would never marry the children. Says Gemara lo masu, and this is what we were saying in Rashi. They did the Maidulu Parshi. Now I saw a beautiful Pri Chodosh who says an unbelievable thing. We'll take it to an extreme to upset some people. Let's say I eat chalav stam. Chas v'shalom. I eat chalav stam. And I have a guest at the Shabbos meal, and I want to give him chalav stam Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Do I have to tell him? At a Shabbos Parv meal, yeah. Yeah, if you eat chalav stam, you can do that also. It's more chomer. Whatever. He's at a Wednesday night supper dinner at my house. I'm giving him blintzes a Shavuos night. I want to give him blintzes with sour cream. That's from Chvesa. What's the name of that company? I don't know. Who?
Philadelphia cream cheese.
Philadelphia cream cheese. There you go. Philadelphia cream cheese. Am I mechuyev to tell this guy who's Lebovic, it's the Chamuros, it is the Chamuros, and we're not going to go into the story now, but it's the Chamur. Could you trick a Lebovicher and give him chalav stam? I was surprised to see that not everybody agrees to this, and don't pass him based on this, obviously. Because holds, you're allowed to. You can trick him. Why? Because you hold it's mutter. So you're not over in lifnei iver. You don't have to worry about his isser and his lifnei iver. You're not over in lifnei. That's what he holds. And he brings a raya from here, right here. The what? What's the what? Shmida's stuff the same, exactly. I'm not eating by your house. That's it. Done. So we'll see it a little bit more later. But the point is that from this sug you see, it's so late. Yevamos, by the way, the share ends at 8:15 every day from now on. If there was a chiyuv, so what's the big deal? Why do they say, there's such tzaddikim, they loved each other, and there's a hava and reyos between Bisham and Bishilo, and therefore they notified them. It's mashma that al pi halach they don't have to notify them. It's only because they had a special hava and reyos. No, it says, look at the Mishnah. Okay, we'll see it soon. When we get to the words, then you'll understand. We see it also in our Mishnah. What Beisil said is Tameh, and Beis Shammai said Tar. So they ate from each other's dishes. Says the Gemara. If they notified them, then they use the dishes. One way is good, because Rashi says it was always one way. The Tmeis, the Beis Hillel, the Beis Shammai Taharis. What Beis Hillel said is Tamei, Beis Shammai said is Tar. Elo Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai, Lama Loi Nimnu. Tar is Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, Tmeis Nimnu. It's Tamei. How can you take a dish from your neighbor when according to you it's Tamei? Elalav the Moidalu. So here's a raya that they notified them and explained to them and said, this dish you're allowed to, it's not Tamei. According to you, it's not Tamei. Go ahead and use it. And there was Samech on it. Shema Amina. Sponsored by Moshe Horn, in honor of Shmuley Sugar, the original sugar shaker. Sponsored in honor of Ed Kinsbursky, Brian Kinsbursky, and Ari Miller for learning the Daf. Ask the Gemara. Not the second. We don't have time. I'll do it after shir or something. So what's the bigger raya from? You brought me a raya from the dishes, and you said, this is a great raya. It's even better than the raya from the tsaras. One married the tsar, and they married into each other's family. Maybe you don't have to notify Beis Hillel. Hey, these kids are not mamzerim according to you, because everybody knows the story, the tragic story that the 20-year-old got killed in a car crash, and his wife had to go to Bezdin and do chalitza and yibum, the whole thing. Everybody knows about it. Kamash malon, but dishes nobody knows. Memela, I'm telling you, Gufa. That's why dishes. You see, there's a notification, whereas by tzar there isn't. Gufa Amar Reb Elazar, Ava Pisha Nechleku Beisham Avisil Betzarois Moedim Shem Mamzer Elam Misha Yisura Yisrael Revelishka. We just said this on Amud Aleph. That even though there's a machlokes when it comes to the tzara, should you marry the tzara, not marry the tzara, but they both agree that what produces a mamzer, the middle case of kares. You don't need Mrs. Bezdin, and lav is not strong enough, but it's kares. Kares is strong enough. Man moedim who admits to? According to Beis Shammai, I don't know, says because what? If they are chayve lavim, then they're kosher. Beis Hillel Beis Shammai he gufa chayve krisisi. But according to Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai's children are kares. So I mean they're moida. Lo'ilam Beis Shammai Beis Hillel lapukim midrei Akiva the Omar Yishmam is mechayve lavim. They're talking about a side point. You should just know that Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel agree to one thing. They agree that in order to produce a mamzer, you cannot produce it according to Rabbi Kiva, who says that even a lav, that if there's an isser, let's say machzik rushasei, we had that case. You divorce your wife, the plumber marries her, you marry her afterwards. What are you over lav? What happens to the children? According to Rabbi Kiva, mamzerim. So you should know that Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel both agree that that's not the case. They're not mamzerim. They argue Rabbi Kiva. Kamash malon de mamzer mechayve lavim. Toshma. So there's a chart here. Tsaros is in our Mishnah. Achayos, we really don't need to say the story, but why not? There are four Baldwin brothers. Here you have them, all of them in their glory. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. The two out of the four, Reuven and Shimon, married two sisters. And then they go bye-bye. Somebody said, why don't you use the real word? Why don't you use this? No, I'm using it on purpose. Bye-bye. Doesn't mean, I don't want to say bye-bye to the Baldwin brother, the real word to the Baldwin brother. So, bye-bye. Now, just upset that guy.
Bye.
What are you so happy? Now you get the two Yerushalmi wives. Levi gets the two Yerushalmi wives. And Yehuda gets. So it's 1-1. So are they married to sisters? They have a Zika. Levi and Yehuda now have two women that are sisters falling to them. And you're not allowed to marry sisters. So what do? You give chalitza to both of them. But what happens if one brother married one and the other married the other? One brother married one. What do? So according to Beis Shammai, you don't need a get. Okay, so that's the story. We're going to get to it later in a different sugya. But real quickly, that's the story. We're just going through these quickly. Beget Yashan. Get Yashan means a person wrote a get to his wife, and before he had a chance to give it to her, he was misyachid with her. Ubesafik eshesish. So Rashi in the second shot says that a person gives a get to his wife on condition he's going to die from the disease that he has right now, and he was misyachid with her. He divorced. These are all basically the same idea, the same concept. He divorces his wife, and then they had yichud later on. So the shaila is what? Yeah, but that's the first shot. Rashi likes the second shot better. So it doesn't matter. The point is, in this case also, what's the big deal? He gave the woman a get, and then he was misyachid. So the problem is maybe because maybe he was mekadesher with that bia. So we don't know. So now she's a suffix ish. She can't get married to anybody else because maybe he was mekadesher. Maybe she's mekudeshes. Bekesef u'shava kesef, bepruta b'shava pruta. This is also a story. Everybody knows the first Mishnah in Kiddushin. How much money you have to give a woman? A pruta, shava pruta, dinner, shava. So what happens is Reuven gives her the minimum amount, the pruta. According to Beis Shammai, not a Kiddushin. So she's all excited. She finds out she's not mekudeshes, according to Beis Shammai, and she gets married to Shimon. But according to Beis Hillel, she's a mamzerim. Because the Kiddushin to Reuven was chal 100%. What if she stays married to, what if she goes back to Reuven? According to Beis Shammai, the kids are mamzerim because the Kiddushin only to Shimon was chal, not to Reuven. The kids are, in both directions, you have a problem of Chashash Mamzerus here. These are a bunch of cases of Chashash Mamzerus. Nevertheless, here, these are the words of what I want to say, the Pri Chodesh. We had this in the Mishnah. They loved each other. They mamish friends. Says the Pri Chodesh. If it was a chiyuv to notify your guest that it's chol of stam, I'm just throwing out chol stam because chol stam may be one of the biggest isurim. So we'll talk about another kind of isur. But let's say stam kitnius gebrux. I hold gebrux is nothing. You hold it's the biggest is in the world. What? Yashan. No, Yashan is the Raisa. That you have to. So, no, seriously, if it's the Raisa, it's the Raisa. Nobody says chol stam is the Raisa, but Yashan would. I'm not getting into. Okay, I think now everybody knows that it's the Raisa. I mean, chayla is not. Whatever your case is, to say mishabach for chayalim, whatever. Back to that.
Full circle.
I fool my guest. I tell him it's chol Yisrael. It's chol Yisrael. From here to mashma, that's okay. Why? Because why would the Gemara say chiba v'reis noigim zeh? It's an iser. It's lufnei iver lo yisida michshol. You don't like that, raya?
It doesn't say you could say it's chol Yisrael. It says you don't have to tell them that it's not.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You can't say
Okay. But it's still the same thing. Same thing. Okay. Same thing. It's lufnei iver lo yisida. You see your friend about to be over, according to him, a iser. Can't lie. Okay, fine. That lying is already gnevis das. It's a whole different story. And I'm not saying that's the psak, by the way. There's many that argue on him. I just thought it's fascinating that exists such a halacha. You know, Mefurish, he hates that stuff. He's going to go crazy. He vomits out the Chol of Yisrael, the Chol of Stam. And you're going to sit there and watch him eat it and say, oh, I have a heter because the Gemara and the Yudal Amud Beis says it's okay. Fine. But that's the Pri Chodesh. Reb Shimon Oimer, Nimnu Hein Min Avadeh. Okay, fine.
How can you do it?
Okay, let's go back. Let's finish up here. We're getting to the end there. Reb Shimon Oimer, Nimnu Hein Min Avadeh. So listen to this. We're going to ask a question from this line right here. Reb Shimon says they refrained from certain isurim when it was 100%. But they only had a suffix, they didn't. If they acted upon their halacha, back to what we started the daf with. Beis Shammai passed in a certain way, did they do it? Now, if in fact they did it, now it makes a lot of sense. They had to prevent themselves from avada. Back to the same question. Now, what about you? Even if they did do the according to Beis Hillel, these children are mamzerim. Yeah, you have to think about it for a second because we're going to go into it in a millisecond. The two parents, what they're doing is bad. It's a lav. But what about the offspring? It's a kid of a lav. No big deal. You're allowed to marry. It's not such a big deal in shidduchim. The Shabbat is like, oh, you should know they were over an isser lav when they conceived the kid. It's not nigeh anymore. So why would it make a big deal out of it? Very good. We're not talking about the offspring. The offspring is, let's say, Bali Tshuva. What they did before they had this kid and this and that, it's not nigeh to us. He's a good kid. He's a good guy in yeshiva. Finished. We marry him. But we're saying the parents themselves, they're over a lav. Would Beis Hillel marry the tzara of Beis Shammai? How could Beis Hillel marry any woman over there? They're going in. Maybe she happens to be a woman that requires chalitza. A woman. We're talking about the tzara itself that has the isser. But Reb Shimon said only a vadai they refrain, but not an suffix. If you're talking about a sveka, you're talking about the next generation, okay. But you're talking about the isser itself. Maybe this woman is the isser deraisa. Maybe she's a shizach. Not that there's actual. They're talking about this woman, is she usher or not usher? We're just stam any woman from Beis Shammai. The Moidelu Parshi and Beis Shammai notify and they tell the Beis Hillel from this family you don't want to touch. There was an issue there. So what's the chiddush? That's what you want to tell me. Hainu Reisha, we already said it. The cooler of Shimon that this entire brayz from beginning to end is not a machloikis. It's Reb Shimon saying it from beginning to end. Have a wonderful day. Would you like this, by the way?